Stocks are trying to push here. We're going to think about some other stuff. Phil Striebel, Chief Market Strategist, Blue Line Futures. But it feels like we always end up talking some stocks on this block because I love to get your takes, Phil. Good afternoon.
Hey, to expand on that conversation I had with Ross, my father-in-law, to protect himself, he bought a bumper sticker that says, "I bought this Tesla before Elon went crazy."
I respect that humor. Okay, that's pretty funny. I guess people should just say bought in whatever year if they feel they need to identify on one side of the aisle.
Right, exactly. But looking at the commodities in the stock market, it's been quite a volatile week. I mean, with the Fed and everything, and we had that snapback rally. It looks like we're kind of defined between some levels. 5750 would be a 38% retracement from that all-time high to this washout low. So that might be an area where people will start to look at some tactical shorts and reduce some of the positions. But really, it's kind of a gloomy outlook on the economy. Fed seems to be handcuffed. No one's going to know what these tariffs are going to bring or what the ramifications of them. So there's just a lot of moving parts in the market right now, and I think that people have more of a defensive setup.
That seems very fair. The one thing I do see is gold a little bit weak today, and I wonder if after its big ramp, that maybe it was overdone. I mean, we got news from Ukraine that sounds like Zelensky's ready to act quickly on some kind of resolution. I mean, what do you think about gold here?
I think it was a lot of it was technical based. I mean, if you draw a trend line going back from like November of 2023 and you kind of connect all the tops going out there, you're going to see that every time it's ran into that upper boundary trend line, it has pulled back and rejected those higher levels. I think that a pullback in a bull market is very healthy. I'm not saying that gold futures are going to go significantly lower. I'm just saying that, it takes that consolidation to really build on and really propel these prices higher. And I think too many people are waiting on the sidelines to add to gold. China also came out with a negative article saying that traders should avoid excess speculation because of volatility in the gold market. And I think that they might have planted that to try and bring some of these prices a bit lower here for them to buy for their own strategic reserve.
So you think there's still a pretty price insensitive buyer from central banks for gold?
I think so. I think we still have some room to run.
Obviously.
Like 31 to 3,300, I think is realistic before we start to see what this economy is bringing in. Perhaps we've hit our gloomiest times in the end of the second quarter, and maybe we have a little bit of a turnaround in the third and fourth. And that's when things have really they've matured, some of the tariff talk and things like that. And then we can find our footing and go from there.
Okay. I think the take on gold's pretty solid. The one that I'm frustrated by is silver. What the heck? I was promised a breakout. $35. I'm stuck,
okay.
Phil.
$35 is that high that we saw last October, and that's a double top. Now, double tops are often a bearish reversal sign. We bounce off them, we go back down. Just like that double bottom at 29.25, we bounce from there. But triple tops and triple bottoms are often broken in a reversal point. That's where I think if we close over about 35.10, 35.20, and the next session we end up a little bit stronger, I think that's where you get your $36.50, $38 silver.
Okay, so it sounds like you're pretty optimistic on that one still, too.
Yeah, because of its correlation to not only gold, but the copper market. And if you look at copper, it has an actual physical squeeze going on right now. You look at the futures contracts over in China, the front month is trading to a premium of the farther out months. And typically that doesn't happen because of storage costs, security, and everything else associated with copper. So copper demand is quite robust. Mining supply just can't bring it on fast enough. And there's just so many different variables, everything from construction, the grid, to EV vehicles, to you name it, you've got it for the copper market. So I think that a big test in copper is 515 to 520, breaks through there, sky's the limit, but we got to move through that level as first.
The copper on the long-term chart, I guess I'm glad Fridays with Phil, baby. This is why we do it. I didn't realize that, I kind of lost sight of copper this week. I was so focused on stocks. What a move.
Up 27% year to date. It's one of the best performing commodities out there.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, but I kind of lost sight of it this week, I'll admit. FXI and Chinese stocks were a little bit weaker today. The two correlate to some degree. But I mean, both those charts, it's like if they keep going, you've got multi-year breakout potential.
Turn those pennies in finally. They're worth 3-4 cents.
Yeah, exactly. What are we missing? Coins, Phil? BTC, what's going on?
BTC's stuck in a range right now. I think realistically, you get down to 72, 75. That's kind of your buy. That returns it to the scene of the crime when Trump was elected. And then you go back up, and I think you got 92 to 94 on the upside as your resistance points. I think that people will take some short positions up there. And then if you get the breakout, you can have a tight stop at that point. The stop would be like 96 and a half. Say we close above there, chances are we're running back up to triple digits. And then they're going to start talking about the 105, 115, 125. Sky's the limit there. The CME is going to launch those Solana futures. So we'll see what that does to cryptos. I think they said like in June or something is when it's going to come around, but that'll be an interesting product to trade. Ethereum has just been dead in the water. That's been a tough one.
Ethereum is like, I don't know, it's in a different world of weakness.
Maybe because the North Koreans control all the Ethereum. I don't know.
Is that true?
That's speculation.
I don't know. I lost track of Ethereum like 5 years ago. No, basically I lost track of it when they launched the ETFs and they went nowhere. That kind of was, that to me was kind of the sign that maybe that ship had sailed a little bit from a price action standpoint. It's totally disconnected from BTC, though. I mean, at least there's some some positive there for the Bitcoiners and those maximalists. If all these other coins kind of drop off over time, that would be bullish for Bitcoin in some ways.
Yeah, one of the markets that's been on our radar has been crude oil futures because of the fact that people were so bearish on it. Oil futures holding like $63 to $65. Now they're starting to turn up a bit. I'm not saying that it's going to go like $80, $90, $100, but I think that a retest to 70 seems quite logical given where we're at and everything. There are rising Middle East tensions. A lot of people not talking about that whatsoever. Oftentimes very difficult to bring oil online in like the US. It's not like you could just flip a switch and all of a sudden oil starts flowing. It just takes a lot of hoops to get through to get this oil up and pumping. And if the economy is as good as what Jerome Powell kind of presents it, and things like that, the labor market's not that bad. We'll see this. We'll see this year if travel and things like that continue to hold up very well. As soon as we get out of like kind of these winter months, I know it's unseasonably cool across most of the country right now, but that oil demand could really pick up.
Okay, I love that. Crude, which has been super quiet, stuck under $70. The idea that maybe it could wake up could be a pretty fun notion. Maybe not if you're looking for inflation to cool off, but a conversation in the future because we've been stuck down near the 70 for much of the last 6 months. Love it. Great stuff, Phil. Appreciate it. Nice work taking us through it. Copper,
Take care, man.
crude, coins, ETH and BTC, silver, gold. Phil Striebel, great stuff, Chief Market Strategist, Blue Line Futures.